Alex here with a video on case coverage. This is meant to answer the big pile of questions that I've allowed to build up over the last few years from the viewers on following cases that we're covering. So, most common question is somebody will watch a video. So, like, say, Christopher Wren versus Real Water. And this video in particular published August 2nd. Actually, no, the hearing was held August 2nd, but it didn't publish on August 2nd. In any event, people will ask, where's the next video, or when is the next hearing, um, or they'll want to start from the beginning. So they'll ask, is is there any other videos that we've missed, or is there any way we can get a background on this video so that they can get some details? And I'm about to answer all those questions with the website. We do have playlists on both YouTube and Facebook, and the playlists have everything organized, and those are a great alternative. A lot of people prefer to use the playlist. They'll just track it down, click on the playlist, and they'll watch it in order from the playlist. But the website is where most of my attention is on keeping track of this stuff. And it's under the events, or sorry, the media tab. You click on the media tab, and then it'll open this calendar. So if you remember, that video was on August 2nd, and it's under the Real Water lawsuits. You click on it, and it'll actually tell you not only the August 2nd hearing that you just watched, but also the hearings that came before and the hearings afterwards. This includes the event video, which is usually the first entry, but not always, and I'm working on that, guys. So in this particular situation, the event video is the first entry, and you can click that to get a brief synopsis of the case, a brief background. And you can also look at other information like the media request and order if you really want to, records requests and stuff like that. You can follow what's going on with the case as far as what I'm trying to get a hold of for you guys. And you can also see future hearings. So if you happen to watch this August 2nd hearing, you can see that there's hearings coming up, and all of the different hearings and the types of hearings and in which case they fall under. You can get all that information. So one of the things that I want to mention is I am going to try to save these links probably as a comment, a pinned comment in YouTube. I'm not sure if I can do that with Facebook. I'll try to do it in Facebook too. And I just need to really remember that and keep that as a habit, so that way people who are watching the video can just go to the pinned comment and click on it to get to the full case with everything that's going on in it. The next thing that I want to mention is I get some questions on, well, so I get some questions on the comprehensive case coverage model, which is where I cover every single hearing in a case. And I also get some questions on why I pick certain cases for coverage. So I guess I'll start with why I pick certain cases for coverage, and then I'll go into the comprehensive comprehensive coverage model after. So the homepage here has the written policy behind it, and you can click on this document, open it, and scroll through it and find the portion that talks about what criteria I follow to choose a case. But I think most people are just going to want a nutshell explanation, and also probably some examples. So in a nutshell, I'm looking to cover new stuff, whether it's a new judge or a new district or a new courthouse or even a new issue. And the more that I can sort of combine in that sense, the more likely that I'm going to target that case for coverage. I also do pay attention to the sort of news background on it, whether the litigant has generated their own, or whether there's just articles in the Review Journal or Reno Gazette or whatever. I do take that into consideration, but it is not the primary driving factor. In fact, there are lots of cases that are in the news that are pretty big, but I don't cover them because I've already covered the judge. And so I feel like I'm not really doing anything new. I'm just sort of following the mainstream media around. And they also have a different approach. So with the mainstream media, mainly they report in summary fashion, which is fine. It's different from what I do. It doesn't mean it's not as useful. It's just probably it caters more to their viewers and their readers than it does to my viewers and my readers. And they're looking for information on the participants and the case. Usually they want to know the conclusion. And you guys are actually wanting to watch the proceedings with your own eyes from beginning to end. So they have just a different approach than I do. So there is some intersection there sometimes. But in all honesty, I try to avoid really intensely covered mainstream media cases, especially the cases where they have deployed cameras, because then it just creates some unnecessary complexity for me when I go and I need to send someone in to record, or when I go in to record. And the reason I say unnecessary is because oftentimes I could just wait for another case in front of that judge. I don't have to necessarily cover that exact case that the mainstream media is following. I can just say, okay, well, I am interested in covering this judge, but this has too much on it already. And you know what? It's also sort of, hey, they're already covering it anyway. They don't really need me to also cover the same thing. So there's a lot that goes into it. There are some exceptions, and I can talk about those when I go through some of these examples. Like, for example, the real water case. There's quite a bit of media coverage on this, but it's not so intense that they're deploying cameras. So my viewers will benefit from some of the background. You guys can go on Google and read some of the articles, and you'll get some information. But at the same time, when I send cameras to record, or when I record via Blue Jeans, it's not like we're getting in each other's way. But there's other cases where I did have this problem. So, for example, the Gruden case. The John Gruden case had so much attention, and I mean, by the time I showed up, there were already two cameras set up. And so a third camera is just not allowed. I mean, really, we're not even supposed to be deploying two. There's only supposed to be one. But in any event, this is an example of a case with so much coverage that it becomes kind of a headache. And it's nobody's fault. It's just part of too many people on the same case. And this one I chose because it was a new judge. It was District Court Judge Nancy Alf, which I haven't covered yet. So that's why I chose that case. Also, I really was interested in the arbitration agreement portion of it, because I think that's something people would be interested in, is how arbitration agreements work, how they remove cases from the courtroom to private arbitration, and also what a judge can consider in deciding to not enforce that, which is what actually happened in this case. Is Judge Alf refused to enforce the arbitration agreement, and so John Gruden got to keep his case in the court system. So I mean, there were some drawbacks with me choosing this case because of the intense media coverage, but at the same time there were enough advantages that I decided to do it. And I'll go through a few more examples just to give you guys an idea. So with the real water case, which I just talked about, it's a civil case that has to do with tainted water. So it's a new issue. And it's also in front of so many different judges. So many. All these judges here. All these cases which involve different judges. And then there's also special master hearings. So it was an opportunity to show the public all these different judges and what a special master hearing looks like. With Steve Eagleston versus Georgina Stewart, we have a civil lawsuit brought by a father against CPS. In Nevada, we call them DCFS, the Department of Child and Family Services. I think we do have CPS in the sense of Child Protection Services workers, but the agency isn't called that. And so that's a new thing that we've never done before, and it's connected to a judicial review hearing in a different district. So this is appealing to me because we have a civil case in District 8, which is Clark County, and then we have a separate judicial review case in District 1, which is Carson City. So two different courthouses in two different districts with two different judges and a new issue. So this is a very appealing case for me to cover. State of Nevada versus William Errico is interesting to me because we have two different cases. We here have the felony case, which is in front of a criminal district court judge, and then we have the civil case, which is the estate suing to recover money damages, and that's also in front of a different judge. So you can see that this is the pattern that I follow. It's not that I'm looking for, hey, I like this guy, or hey, I don't like this guy, or hey, I want this guy to win, or I want this guy to lose. It's nothing like that. I'm looking for different stuff to show the viewers of Our Nevada Judges, is rather than show you things that I personally have an interest in, or that the same thing over and over again, like sovereign citizen cases over and over again, or murder cases over and over again. I try and show you guys as many different cases as I possibly can, especially if I can show you different judges and different courthouses. That's a big thing for me. That's the number one priority. And I guess that's kind of the educational approach taking dominance over the informational approach, which is backwards from the mainstream media. They're mainly focused on information. I mean, you're going to learn stuff, but it's sort of a side effect with them. Whereas with me, I'm primarily focused on education. And of course, you're going to get some information from the cases themselves. You are going to learn about the participants, but that's just a secondary thing for me. It's a side effect. It's not the goal. Very quickly, I'll go through a few more of these. So here we have the O'Connor case. This was a church house shooting. And this one was interesting to me because it was District 10, which I'd never covered before. And also, it's it's become even more interesting now because it's turned into a case where they're reviewing his status on institutionalization. So he was deemed incompetent to stand trial and he's been institutionalized. And so we'll be able to cover this. It's already been approved by Senior Judge Maddox. I'll open it really quickly to show you. And so you can see that Senior Judge Maddox has already approved my request to cover the this status check on his institutionalization. So this is something that is just not out there. It's a new thing to show you guys what it looks like. If somebody gets institutionalized, the court checks up on them every year to see how things are going. And you'll be able to watch that through the lens of a 4K camera. We have Kurt Harris versus Ernest Stilkesol. So this was one of the earlier on cases. It's only one case in front of one judge, but the individual Ernest Stilkesol had already generated a social media following, and the organization, the underlying organization, is called Equal Rights for Divorced Fathers, which also has a following. So this is a situation where the existing audience influenced my decision to cover. It's like it's all that's basically what I did with the state of Nevada versus Michael McDonald, which was there's already a massive audience, a social media audience online that's following this individual. Now we have a case, so that's a situation where the social media interest in the case drove coverage. It's still a new judge, actually two new judges. The first one was Judge Rob Baer, and the second one Judge David Jones. But yes, I mean, would I have covered this if it was in front of the same judge? No. One of the judges that I already covered, no, I wouldn't have covered. I would have skipped it. Let's see here. State of Nevada versus Chapui. With this one, it's first time we were in Nye County and in Beatty Justice Court. So brand new Justice Court, brand new District Court, brand new judges in both courts, two in District Court. So Kimberly Wonker and Robert Lane presided. And so this is a situation where, to me, it was obviously a good idea to cover this case because there's so many new things I can show you guys. Plus, we have a situation of two individuals who owned a school who've been alleged to have abused kids or neglected kids based on tainted water at the school and disciplinary practices. So all sorts of things here that are new. With the state of Nevada versus Bradley Belisario, we just have a slew of proceedings in front of all sorts of different judges. So this is a domestic relations matter. I think it's a divorce that's spilled into criminal court, and this gave me the opportunity to show you guys at least 4 different judges, maybe even more. So you'll see that this is really the pattern. It's not that I have interest in the cases and I want to take a side or decide who's going to win or lose. It's that that particular case has certain aspects to it or qualities that make it so that if I cover that case, I'll be able to show you guys all sorts of different things depending on the case in question. I'll do just a couple more of these and then I'll move on. So we have State of Nevada versus Kim Blandino. A lot of people think that I covered this case because it was a sensational case, but to me, I just saw Kim Blandino as being himself. And I think that other people saw Kim Blandino as being sensational, but that's just really who he is. That's just him. The reason I covered it was because so many different judges were involved in it. There were at least 5 or 6 judges, probably even more that I don't know about, that were involved before I even started covering the case. And a lot of that's mentioned in the event video. And then as the case went on, of course, I had to stick with it because of the comprehensive coverage model, which I guess now I can talk about. Now it's a good time to dovetail into that. So once I start covering a case, I stick with the case and I don't stop covering it. And you guys have probably noticed that and probably appreciated it. The only time I think people get confused by this is when they're brand new to the channel, or if it's like a lawyer or a judge. So they're confused because some of the hearings are really short. Like we have, 2-minute, 3-minute hearings that is just like a continuous and that's all. And so they're confused. They're like, why did you cover that? That was boring. That was nothing happened there. But they're thinking of it from the sort of, I was just looking for a specific video to be entertained. But these aren't meant to entertain. They're meant to educate and inform. And so for the viewers who have been following this case for the whole, however many years it's been going, to them, a 2 or 3 minute video is an update. To them, it's like, oh, I've watched the last 12 videos. What just happened today? Okay, they moved the hearing forward, or they continued the hearing or the trial. So to the viewers who've been following the case, they find value in it. To other people who are used to summary coverage, they don't. And I think a lot of people are getting used to this format and appreciate it. And I noticed that there were huge advantages to the comprehensive coverage model straight from the very beginning to the state of Nevada versus Michael McDonald. I started to read the comments and I was like, wow, there's a lot of people who didn't realize that these cases go on for a long time. And there's a lot of people who didn't realize that there's a lot of continuances. And it wasn't always favorable to the system. Some people were upset at the tax impact. But I realized that there is value in doing this. And then the other thing is that it opens the door for people to become interested in cases that might not necessarily be entertaining slash salacious slash so like a spectacle, like a fight or something outrageous. That's which is what you'll see with like court cam. And so I think that it has so many different benefits to it, and I'm going to keep doing it because I noticed that, and because the viewers seem to appreciate it. And it's, with serial coverage, that's what happens. When people watch a series, they start to get attached to the characters and to the story and to the information, and it becomes bigger than just one hearing, which is really good. So I learned about this through the state of Nevada versus Michael McDonald, and I decided, hey, this is something I'm going to keep doing going forward. And so to this day, I keep doing that. I hope that this video answers most people's questions, and I hope that people especially find the media tab useful. If you're trying to follow a case on YouTube or Facebook, it's difficult. Even with I put the dates and times, and it's still difficult because it's like YouTube's algorithm and Facebook's algorithm is concerned with its own benefits, and so digging through YouTube and Facebook can be very difficult for people. And if you really want to follow a case and not have to deal with all that, you can just go into the Our Nevada Judges website, click on events if you want to follow by calendar, and you can of course click on the events or click on coverage if you want to look for a specific case and find out what's going on in that case. This is really what I'm trying to get people to do, is come to the website because I can show more information. And also, if I get to the point where people are requesting different types of information, I can actually update the website. There's not much I can do for Facebook and YouTube. I mean, the best thing I can do is the playlists, and as I've mentioned, I don't know if I actually talked about the playlists much. The playlists are organized and ordered to the best that they can be. It's really just a chronological list of videos, but they don't necessarily have all the information. They don't have the upcoming hearing dates and times. And sometimes they're a little bit clunky, especially on Facebook. Because on Facebook, if I try to change something in a video, it makes it very difficult to move the video around. And so there's actually some playlists on Facebook that aren't even set up correctly because Facebook just isn't able to handle it. Facebook basically just says just repost the video, which isn't efficient because then my viewers get spammed with a video that they've already seen. If you guys have any more questions on case coverage, feel free to post those questions down in the comments below. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and see you guys next time.